Hey guys, welcome back. As some of you know, I really enjoy historical bios because it helps for us to know the true story of who or what we're celebrating. And just as I did a short video on, who was Saint Nicholas, I want to talk to you a little bit about who was Saint Patrick, because we're coming up to Saint Patrick's Day, or as some people call it, Saint Patty's Day. Now, that is an important day for me because that is my daughter's birthday. So that has special importance in memory. However, St. Patty's Day is one of those that we normally think of as a kind of a pagan holiday, where everybody's covered in green and drinking themselves into a drunken stupor. Now, most of the celebration side of it is pagan, I would dare say. But who is this man that we are celebrating? Well, some of the mythos surrounding Patrick is that he rid the land of Ireland of all their snakes, that he drove them off the country and out of the country. But that is just that mythos. But I do want to look at the real man, Patrick, and we'll just refer to him as Patrick. He was born around 385 AD in northern England, so the area of Britain. His parents were Celtic Britons who had been Romanized, so he was therefore a Roman citizen. When he was about 16 years old, there were some Irish raiders who kidnapped him and took him prisoner, took him back to Ireland and made him a slave. And there he served in Ireland for 6 years, learning the language, learning the customs, learning about the Gaelic or the Celtic people, these barbarians, so to speak. He actually served. He served under a tribal chief who was also a druid, which would be similar to a wizard or a magician. But this was a dark country, a dark island spiritually. Many people, in terms of Christianity, thought, well, these people are too far gone to be able to receive the hope of Christ. Well, Patrick didn't feel that way. 6 years after being enslaved, he escaped, made it back to his homeland, and then went to school to become a minister, where he served in a parish for somewhere around 20 years. So the story of Patrick going to Ireland as a missionary didn't actually happen until he was about between 48 and 50 years old, which around this time, around 450 AD or whatever, that's a long lifespan. But he went back. So the captive went back to his captors to preach freedom in Christ, because Christ frees. I mean, not just, we're not talking about physical bondage here. We're talking about spiritual bondage to sin and darkness. And so Patrick goes back to his captors and he tells them about Christ and he preaches to them. But he preaches to them at their level, in Irish, to these Celts. And I love the way David Mathis says it in an article on Desiring God's website. He said, Patrick knew the Irish well enough to engage them as they were and build authentic gospel bridges into their society. He wanted to see the gospel grow in Irish soil rather than pave it over with a Roman road. Patrick didn't go to colonize. He went to preach the gospel. It's like, the early church, right? When Jesus ascended up into heaven, some in the early church thought that the Gentiles needed to become Jews to become Christians. But that's not true. Peter, James, and John realized, no, the Gentiles have their own personality, and they come to Christ as they are. We all come to Christ as we are. We don't make somebody look like us before they can accept Christ. We tell them the hope of Christ, and they come to Christ broken, and Christ heals them. So, I hope as you don your green shirts and green caps and green stickers on March 17th, that you remember the man behind the myth, Patrick, who took the hope of freedom in Jesus Christ to those who were lost in darkness, bound as slaves to sin. Thanks, guys.